A woman stands at her bathroom mirror, dressing for work, and she cannot stop crying. Her eyes are red and puffy from tears of pure self-pity. And here's the strange part. She has a doctorate in psychology. She has spent years studying the human mind, and none of it has saved her from the one thing running her whole life: fear. Fear of leaving what isn't working. Fear of trying what might. A little voice that whispers, "Don't take a chance, you'll be sorry." Then, staring at her own reflection, something snaps. She starts shouting at the glass, "Enough, enough, enough," until her voice gives out. And in the silence that follows, she feels something she has never felt before. In the next few minutes, that feeling becomes 5 words that can end fear's grip on you too. Her name is Susan Jeffers, and years later, she is standing in front of a classroom of strangers. Watch them file in. They sit as far apart as the chairs allow. Nobody speaks. Everyone stares at the floor. Then she asks each of them one question: "What are you afraid to face in your life?" And the stories pour out. A man wants to leave a career of 14 years to become an artist. A woman wants to walk away from a 15-year marriage. A 32-year-old is terrified of getting old. Someone retired feels his whole life is over. Different faces, different fears. Public speaking, being alone, making the call. But as each person speaks, the tension drains out of the room, because everyone is discovering the same secret at once. They are not the only one who feels afraid, not even close. Now here's the reframe that changes everything. You have always assumed your fear is a psychological problem, some flaw buried deep, some wiring that needs fixing. Jeffers says it isn't. In most cases, fear isn't a sickness, it's an education problem. Nobody ever taught you how to hold it. Sit with that for a second, because it is a strange relief. It means there is nothing wrong with you. You are not weak or damaged or uniquely cursed with cold feet. You simply never learned the one skill that turns fear from a wall into a doorway. And a skill, unlike a personality, can be learned. Anyone can learn it, she insists, regardless of age or background. The crying woman at the mirror learned it. So the question stops being, "What's wrong with me?" It becomes something far more useful. And that starts with knowing what fear actually is. So let's take fear apart, floor by floor, like a building. The top floor is the one you already know, the surface fears. Some of them are things that simply happen to you: aging, illness, losing someone you love, being alone. Others demand that you act, making a decision, changing careers, speaking up, ending a relationship. That's level 1. Go down a floor and the feeling changes. Level 2 isn't about situations at all, it's about you. The fear of rejection, of failure, of success, of looking like a fool. These follow you everywhere, because rejection is rejection, whether it strikes at a job interview or across a dinner table. So you start to protect yourself. You shrink your world to stay safe. But neither of these is the real fear. Keep going down, because underneath every fear you have ever felt sits one single fear, and it is the one that keeps you stuck. Ready? At the very bottom of every fear you have, every single one, is this: I can't handle it. That's it. Test it. I can't handle illness. I can't handle being alone. I can't handle losing my job. I can't handle making a fool of myself. Peel back losing the money, losing the love, losing the image. And every one of them translates to the same 5 words: I can't handle it. It sounds almost too small to be the villain, but it explains everything. It's why you try to control your partner, your kids, your boss, the interview, the outcome. Because deep down, you don't trust yourself to survive it if things go wrong. All that exhausting effort to control the world comes from one quiet doubt about yourself, which means the answer was never out there. It was always in here. Because flip that sentence over and the whole world changes. If you knew, really knew, that you could handle anything life threw at you, what would you have left to fear? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You would no longer need to control what your boss does, what the market does, whether the relationship lasts, whether the plan works. You'd simply trust yourself to deal with whatever showed up. So Jeffers hands you 5 words to carry for the rest of your life. Say them now. Whatever happens, I'll handle it. Not, I hope it works out. Not, please let nothing go wrong. Just, I'll handle it. This is the whole game. Every tool in her book is really one tool: building enough trust in yourself that fear loses its power over you. And the first surprising truth about that fear is that you have been waiting for it to disappear. It never will. Here's what nobody tells you. The fear will never go away. Not as long as you keep growing. Every time you step onto new ground, fear shows up again, like a shadow at your heels. Waiting to feel ready, waiting for the fear to lift before you act, is a trap with no exit. And here's the second truth. The only way to get rid of the fear of doing something is to go out and do it. The doing comes first. The confidence comes after. And the third truth might be the most freeing of all. Every single person feels this fear when they step into the unknown. The confident people you envy aren't fearless. They feel exactly what you feel. They have just learned to hold it differently, which turns the whole problem upside down. If everyone feels fear, and so many act anyway, then fear was never the real problem at all. Picture 2 people offered the exact same terrifying opportunity. Same fear, identical, buzzing in both their chests. One is frozen, helpless, drowning in dread, unable to move. The other feels alive, charged, excited, already leaning in. The fear is the same. What's different is where they hold it. Jeffers draws it as a line, running from pain on one end to power on the other. Pain is helplessness, depression, paralysis. Power is choice, energy, action. And most of us live somewhere in the anxious middle. The entire secret to handling fear is not to erase it, it's to walk yourself, step by step, from the pain end toward the power end. And be careful with that word, power. She doesn't mean control over other people. She means power over yourself, over how you react, what you choose, what you create. And that walk begins somewhere you'd never expect, with the words coming out of your mouth. Listen to yourself for one day and you'll hear it everywhere. I can't leave. I can't ask. I can't start over. Jeffers says strike those 2 words from your vocabulary and replace them with 2 others. I won't. Feel the difference. I can't leave my job makes you a prisoner. I won't leave my job hands you back the keys. One is helplessness. The other is a choice you are making. Because your inner mind is always listening, and it can't tell true from false, it just believes whatever you feed it. Say I can't, and it files you under weak. Say I won't, I could, I want. And it starts building something stronger. This isn't decoration. The words are the wiring. And to prove exactly how physical that wiring is, Jeffers does something in her classroom that leaves people speechless. But first, you have to meet the thing fighting you every step of the way. Jeffers calls it the Chatterbox, that non-stop little voice in your head narrating disaster. You know the one. Who do you think you are? You'll fail. You'll make a fool of yourself. Better play it safe. Remember last time? It never runs out of material. It talked the woman at the mirror into staying stuck for years. And here's the trap. As long as you believe the Chatterbox is telling you the truth, it makes you a victim of your own mind. But it is not you. It's just noise. A channel playing the worst station in your head. And once you realize you're the one holding the dial, you can change what plays. You can feed your mind something else entirely. And what you feed it, it becomes, as one simple experiment is about to show in the most physical way possible. Watch this. Jeffers asks a volunteer to hold one arm straight out and resist as hard as they can while she tries to push it down. She can't budge it. The arm holds like iron. Then she asks them to close their eyes and repeat 10 times, I am a weak and unworthy person. Really feel it. Then hold the arm out again. And this time it collapses under her hand like a wet branch. All the strength has drained away. Now she flips it. I am a strong and worthy person. 10 times. The arm turns immovable again, stronger than before. Same person, same muscle. Minutes apart. And here's the part that stuns everyone. It works even when they don't believe the words. Positive words make you physically strong. Negative words make you physically weak. Your body is eavesdropping on your self-talk. So the real question becomes, what have you been telling it? This is why positive thinking gets a bad name. People try it for a week, feel nothing magic, and quit. But Jeffers says positive thinking was never a mood. It's a muscle. And a muscle you stop training loses its tone. You wouldn't do 50 push-ups once and expect to stay strong forever. The same is true up here. So she has you flood the mind on purpose, out loud, day after day. I am powerful and I am loving. I'll handle it. 25 times, morning, noon, and night. Not because you feel it yet, but because repetition is what makes you feel it. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but remember the arm. The words don't ask your permission. Keep feeding the machine strength, and it gets strong. Stop, and the old fearful voice creeps right back in, which raises the harder question: who's actually responsible for what plays in there? You are. And Jeffers means that more completely than it sounds. Taking responsibility, she says, means never blaming anyone, not your parents, your partner, your boss, your past, for where you are right now. That sounds harsh until you see the gift hidden inside it. If someone else is the reason your life is stuck, then someone else holds the power to unstick it, and you're left waiting forever. But if you accept that you are the cause, then you are also the cure. Watch for your payoffs too, the sneaky rewards you collect for staying stuck, the comfort of not risking, the sympathy of being the victim, being right instead of happy. The moment you stop blaming the world and start asking, what am I getting out of staying here? You take the wheel back. And with the wheel in your hands, even the scariest thing on the road gets easier: the decision. Think of the last big choice that kept you up at night. Take this job or that one. Stay or go. Jeffers says we agonize because we were taught a lie, that one path is right and the other will ruin your whole life. Stand at that fork with that belief and your chatterbox goes wild. What if I choose wrong? What if I regret it? What if? What if? She offers a different map. Picture the fork with both roads marked right. Down either one lies something to learn, someone to meet, a version of you to become. There is no wrong turn, only different adventures. Take the man who quit law school to become a psychologist. His father cut him off. He worked construction for 2 years to fund the switch, and on that job site met the woman he'd marry. What looked like a detour was the whole point. Whichever road you take, you'll handle it. So choose and never look back. But some things you don't get to choose. The layoff, the diagnosis, the person who leaves. What do you do when life simply hands you the thing you dreaded? Jeffers says, say yes to it. Not the fake yes of pretending it's fine, the fierce yes that says, this is my reality now, and I will find something to make of it. Because the alternative, fighting reality or pretending it isn't happening, only drains you. Denial is deadly. Saying yes means picking yourself up and acting on the belief that you can create meaning out of whatever you're handed. She watched a man named Charles do exactly this in the middle of a life-threatening crisis. Choosing to say yes to his universe when saying no would have meant giving up entirely. The situation didn't bend to him. He bent toward it and found his power there. And the more places you can draw that power from, the safer you become, which is where the grid comes in. Meet 2 women who each lost the person they loved. The first, call her Louise. Her partner was, in her own words, her whole life. Everything she had ran through him. So when he was gone, look at what was left. Nothing. An empty room. No wonder she felt she had to replace him instantly. There was nothing else holding her up. Now the second woman, Nancy. Draw her life not as one box, but as a grid. Many squares. Work. Friends. Family. Her own growth. Alone time. Contribution. When Nancy lost her relationship, one square went dark. A real, painful hole. But the rest of the grid stayed lit. Her life still worked. Same loss. Completely different collapse. The lesson lands hard. Never pour your entire self into a single box, because anything in a single box can be taken from you. Fill the whole grid and give each square everything you've got. There's one square on that grid Jeffers won't let you skip. Contribution. The place where you make your own dent in the world. And she knows what you're picturing. Gandhi, Einstein, someone changing history. Drop that. Contribution, the way she means it, is simply this. Look around wherever you already are. Notice what needs doing, and do it. A kinder word to a coworker. Showing up fully for your family. A small hand to your community. That's it. Why does it matter so much? For fear. Because the moment you know you can make a difference, any difference, you stop feeling helpless. And helplessness, remember, was the pain end of the whole map. A person who contributes is a person who counts, who matters, who is a force in the world, instead of a victim of it. Giving, it turns out, is one of the quickest routes to your own power. It connects you to something the fearful, shrinking self can never reach. Jeffers has a name for that something. She calls it the higher self, the strong, calm, loving part of you that already knows you can handle anything. Not a mood you're chasing, a place inside you're learning to live from. Most of us spend our days cut off from it, listening to the Chatterbox instead. And that disconnection has a feeling, a low, restless homesickness for a self we can sense but can't reach. The tools all point home. The affirmations, the grid, saying yes, doing the thing that scares you. Every one is a path back to that powerhouse within. And she borrows a line from the psychologist Rollo May to name the prize. The goal of life, he wrote, isn't happiness. It's joy, the feeling that comes from using your powers to their fullest, not safety, not comfort, the full, unclenched use of everything you've got. And there is exactly one way to get there. Do the thing. That's the entire secret, and it never changes. Not think about it, not wait to feel ready, not conquer the fear first and act later. You will be waiting your whole life if that's the deal you're holding out for. The fear doesn't leave before you act. It quiets after. Confidence isn't the ticket you buy before the ride. It's the souvenir you collect at the end. Every time you feel the fear and move anyway, you hand yourself proof. I did that. I survived that. I handled that. And the proof stacks up until, whatever happens, I'll handle it, stops being a hopeful chant and becomes something you simply know. That's the woman at the mirror, years on. Not a woman who stopped being afraid. A woman who stopped letting the fear decide. She still feels it. Every time she grows, there it is. She just doesn't wait for permission anymore. So go back to that mirror one last time. Same fear looking back at you, but now you know what to do with it. You know it will never fully vanish, and that this is fine, because it only ever meant you were growing. You know that underneath it all sits one small lie, I can't handle it, and you hold the 5 words that answer it. You know the confidence you're waiting for lives on the other side of the doing, never before it. Jeffers says the you that could be is absolutely colossal, bigger and braver than the frightened one in the glass has ever guessed. All that stands between you and that person is a single step you keep talking yourself out of. So take it. Say yes to your life. Feel the fear, and do it anyway. If this hit home, the next book on our shelf is for anyone ready to quiet that inner voice for good. We'll see you there.